Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. We both haven't stopped smiling since we both came on, so I feel like this is going to be a good one.
I know. I wish I'd recorded it when you first came on because you were just... So for those of you that are just listening, I turned on the recording device and Sarah just pops up dancing. I'm like, we're going to be friends. This is going to be a good episode.
Absolutely.
But I feel like, and I said to you just a minute ago, but I feel like I don't really know you and everything that you do. And I am so excited to get to know you more on this episode, to find out your entire journey, because I saw the reason this is happening is because I saw a post on Facebook where you said, I'm Sarah, I'm a psychologist who will turn 40 next year and lives out of a backpack. I'd love to share my story of how selling my house and all my stuff in 2017 brought me back to what really makes us happy. And I thought, I need to talk to this woman.
Yes. The woman that lives out of a backpack.
Yeah. I need to know more. Can you just tell me everything about you?
How does that happen? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to just rewind back in time, travel back with me to 2016, where I was actually living in the UK. So this beautiful accent is from Belfast in Northern Ireland, but I lived in Stroud in Gloucestershire for 7 years and had gradually worked my way up to my absolute dream job for really great university. I was a business coach. I worked with fast-paced startups, established companies. I did consultancy for the European Commission. I traveled across Europe, and life on paper looked fabulous. I had ticked all the boxes, done what I was meant to do, everything's done. Now, where is my nice reward of happiness? Where is my fulfillment? Where is all that good stuff? And I didn't have it. And I realized that whilst I had gained a lot on the surface level, on a soul kind of, inner world level, that was really cluttered. And I actually didn't know who I was, what I enjoyed. I remember going to this motivational seminar to try and pick me up, clutching at straws. And the presenter was like, okay, everybody, write down 3 things that you love to do just for you. And I kind of watched this room full of people, frantically, scribbling in their notebooks. And I was like, what do I like to do? I have no idea. And I wrote down the 3 same imaginary hobbies that I put on my CV when I was 16 and going for my first job, in Dixon's, which for the younger people out there was an electrical store back in the day. Walking, swimming, reading. That was all I wrote down. And I came away from that and going, this isn't what life is meant to be like. And I think I've got the rules wrong, or someone has given me the wrong blueprint to follow, because this does not equate to happiness. This is not making me happy. And I had a conversation with my husband. He kind of felt the same. And it started as a joke, honestly, over a couple of glasses of wine, kind of talking about life with him on the sofa. And I was like, if this doesn't make you happy, what would happen if you just got rid of it all? What would that look like? And I was like, yeah, that would be hilarious. And can you imagine our parents' faces and what our friends would say? But then the more we started to talk about it, the more we were like, what if we did do that? What if we just sold all of this and tried to figure out what we wanted in life, and tried to rewrite the rules of happiness and actually notice the things that made us happier? Because right now, all of this stuff is worthless if it doesn't make you happy. And so that's what we did. We sold our house and all our stuff at the start of 2017. Became an instant disappointment to our families, a complete and utter worry to our friends. And we left with a backpack. I had no clue what I was doing. My cousin lives in Bali, so I went and stayed with her for a couple of months, and the adventure started from that point, and I've never looked back.
Oh my goodness. I love, how do you go from joking over wine to actually doing it?
Yeah, and I don't know. it's the honest answer. We had that conversation it was just after my birthday. So that was kind of like around the October time. By the December, over Christmas dinner of all times, I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. That was obviously the red wine talking. We told that's when we announced to our parents that that's what we were going to do. And then in the January, we got back and we were like, it's now or never. We cannot let other people talk us out of this. And if we kind of pause for too long, we're going to not follow that gut instinct that's saying, every part of me was like, this feels right, this feels right. But the logical part of myself, which my background's in psychology, I like things that make sense, was kind of screaming like, this is a really, really bad idea. And you could risk everything that you have worked really, really hard to get. It's not like I don't come from a rich family. I don't kind of come from like, I've worked really hard and my family have pushed me really hard, to get a good education and for my life to be different. And there I was kind of going like all my stuff at a carboot sale, like selling it for like 50p, like just take it. Like I don't want it. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how you got rid of it. So it was just a car boot sale and you just sold it.
Car boot sale. And then the woman that bought our house, because we had obviously like big stuff like furniture, the estate agent made a suggestion, you could include that in the sale of the house if she's interested. So she bought like a lot of the things that were in the house. We did free cycle, eBay, charity shops,
Wow.
And it all went, in the space of a few months.
Wow. So then, okay, so you sell your stuff.
Yeah.
You're stuff free. You tell your parents, you go to Bali.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah. Then I do it. Then it's like reality hits. The heart is pulsating and sure you're in like a really, it's hot and it's nice and your photos look great. But aside from that kind of came the realization of wherever you go, there you are. So I had just changed the backdrop and the scenery and it all sounded really exciting. But it didn't create a fundamental shift. It was just like, it was me with a pool, and nice walks on the beach, which I'm very grateful and feel very fortunate to have. But, you are a world within a world. So like you can change your outer world and it will have an impact on your happiness to a certain extent. But, in psychology, we know that actually baseline changes in your happiness only ever come as a result of when you change your inner world. And then that's when the journey began. So I didn't want to do psychology because let's face it, how do you teach or show people good ways to live their lives when yours is a complete mess? So I was like, nope, that's out the window. Nobody is safe near me right now. I need to like get myself together. And so I started doing different things like, a bit of business consultancy, did a travel blog for a bit, like sold stuff, literally tried a million different things.
This while you were in Bali?
While we were in Bali, then we moved to Thailand. And then that's kind of when I just started to blog and write about my personal experience. And I started to really think about what was an alternative to happiness. And I started to research it and do things that would make me happier. Like I went and lived with monks for over a week and learned how to meditate like in the north of Thailand. And like, I mean, trying to get me to meditate, they used to put mindfulness classes on for us. I know I watched your last podcast episode, so I know that you can resonate with this. I couldn't sit still, like I'm just like a ball of energy, and that was so new to me, but now it's a regular practice. And I started to write about it and I discovered the psychology of flow, how that kind of weaves into our happiness, and started my business, The Power to Reinvent. And I started that in the January, and in the July had an email come through from a lady who I've still never met, I still have never even spoke to her on the phone, who said, I've been following your journey for a while. I love how you write. I think you've got, some really interesting things to share. I'm an editor for a large publishing house in America. Do you want to pitch for a book deal? And I was like, huh, okay, yeah, sure. Like
Wow.
frantically, what is a what does a book proposal look like? Like, how do I even write one of these? And yeah, and then so since then I have my first book came out, Find Your Flow, in January 2020. Choose Happy is out this year. And I have really just created a life that I absolutely love living. Like, to write was my childhood dream, like, but I never thought it was possible.
So you are insanely happy now.
Yeah. I mean, I have like, I mean, nothing can protect you from troubles. So, like, there are storms that appear in my life and circumstances that I can't control.
Mm.
However, I feel like I have the tools to minimize the impact that they have. And the realization came that I didn't need to reinvent myself. My job was to reinvent the rules that I lived by. So when I started to analyze how I was living my life, it was, you know, when I have this, then I will be happy. So I was always in the pursuit of happiness. You know, once I lose that weight, once I get that job, once I have that house, you know, then I can slow down and then I can be happy. And I think a growing number of us have lived by those rules and are realizing that actually they don't work. And our job in life is to reinvent the rules so that we can change the results that we experience. We don't need to change ourselves. We don't need to become that person that wakes up and does yoga at like 5:30 in the morning, unless it's something that we really want to do. Our job is just to be who we are and let kind of that inner essence shine through. And I think that's where happiness really comes from.
It's so interesting. I mean, how do we do that though? How do we access this feeling, and how do we
Yeah.
reinvent the rules?
I'm so happy you asked.
Yay!
So a lot of the rules that we live by are, you know, in our social conditioning. So they're happiness paradigms that we just adopt. You know, we rarely question it. So, you know, once I have this, then I will be happy. And happiness is sold to us in everything that we do. We view it as something external to ourselves, but really it's like trying to, you know, strap external things to your skin, like sandwiches, you know, or food, thinking that it will nourish you on the inside. It just won't. And a big part of my happiness journey was the discovery of the psychology of flow. So the psychology of flow is hailed by psychologists as the secret to happiness. It's where we feel our best and perform our best. And the reason that I love kind of the formula and the structure that flow presents is, number one, it gives me a structure to work within, because, you know, it's like, just be yourself. I don't know how to do that. I need kind of something to follow. But also, I didn't want to lose that achievement part of myself. Like, I love fulfilling my potential. I love seeing, like, what can I do? And I you know, I like success, you know, but I want to be happy at the same time. So when we feel our best and perform our best in flow, we get both. They're no longer kind of two opposing sides. So to give you an example, you know, people who live from a place of flow are proven to have a deeper sense of meaning, purpose, happiness, harmony, and serenity in their life. And synchronicities increase, so people and opportunities drop in at the right time. But your productivity is also proven to increase by up to 500%. You have 3 days heightened creativity, and these are the same state. You experience both at the same time. One is not kind of separate from the other. And there's a formula for it. You know, psychologists have studied it since the 1970s, mainly a Hungarian psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who has a very complicated name, which is very difficult to say and spell.
You know, I'm so pleased you said it, because I was reading the introduction to your first book, and I thought that's a brilliant quote, but
yeah,
I'm not going to pronounce that.
Yeah, it took me a while. It took me a while to learn.
Say it again. So we just have
Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Oh,
yeah.
And go on, sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying about this lovely person?
So he has studied it since the 1970s, and really flow at its core, as well as being, you know, your happiness and success kind of increase at the same time. The reason for that is, I believe, is that flow makes the invisible visible. So in other words, when we're in this state of flow, we're fully ourselves. So your invisible essence, your purpose, the reason that you're here, you know, the gifts that you have to bring to the world becomes visible in those moments. So if you think about when you've experienced flow before, you know, like when you have, I'm sure you have it all the time, you have these kind of like great conversations with people. And in those moments, you're just fully present, you know, actions and awareness merge. You're not even thinking about, you know, did I leave my straighteners on, or the argument that you had with someone earlier, or what you're going to have for dinner. You're just fully present, and you speak, and the words flow, and the questions flow, and time disappears, and your sense of self dissolves. That's flow. And when we're in that state, we're productive, and we're happy, and we're fully ourselves. And it has a formula, which is really simple. If you have a clear goal, which you from which all smaller goals logically follow, and you perform those goals to the best of your current level of ability, and you understand what progress looks like as you journey towards that larger goal, then you will be in flow.
Okay. Now, I've never been very great with maths, so I'm just gonna, when you say formulas, I'm just gonna take it in. So can you give me an example of a goal?
I'll give you, so that's kind of like, that's your goal. So say you have, like, give me an example of a goal that you have, like for your business or personally.
Oh, good question. There's so many. I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm looking out on my garden. I'm just gonna say, one of my goals this spring is to grow vegetables. I'm just going to keep it simple.
Really simple. Love it. Okay, so when we have that large goal, grow vegetables in my garden, happiness comes when smaller goals logically follow from that. So in other words, when you're in alignment with that goal. So if each day you took a small action towards that goal to grow vegetables in your garden, maybe you'll clear a space, maybe the next day you'll plant some seeds, you know, maybe a week from that, you'll kind of, you know, take some cuttings, whatever it is, that pulls us into alignment and harmony, because actions, thoughts, emotions, and feelings are in harmony with the larger goal that we have for our life. And if we do it to the best of our current level of ability, that's really important. So for example, if you have never planted a vegetable before, it's, you know, maybe a bit ambitious to think that next week you could enter a garden show with an award-winning vegetable, because you haven't even put the seeds in the ground. Yeah. So you do it at your own pace, and then the gain that you get is from the growth. So it's all about this beautiful sense of alignment. It pulls our consciousness into harmony. You know, all the parts of ourselves are working in harmony towards a goal, which is very different from the reality that most of us experiences, which is where we're in conflict with each other. You know, one part of me wants to move forward towards that goal, but another part of me is frightened or scared, or, you know, doesn't know if it's possible. So flow brings all the different parts of you that make you who you are, gets them to work in harmony with each other, so that you can realize your full potential and be happy on the journey, because we feel happy when we do things that are in alignment with us.
So it's almost just taking a big goal and breaking it down, and then just enjoying the process.
Exactly.
But then what happens, if we're using this vegetable growing metaphor, what happens if I'm like, okay, goal is growing vegetables, I plant my seeds, and the seeds don't grow?
Yeah, great.
And then my flow is like, it's not flowing.
So that's just, you know, that's life. Hi, life. Like, crap just happens. Like, nothing can protect you from that, but it's an opportunity to learn and grow. So, you know, failure, it's about reframing failure. I think a lot of the times the strategies that appeal to us most, you know, things like, you know, and I'm not dissing any strategies, but, you know, the law of attraction or different things, we believe that we have to do all these things to protect us from negative emotions or negative events. But there is no such thing as positive or negative. You know, negative emotions and negative events in our lives can be real clarifying forces. They can jolt us into action. There are opportunities to grow and learn. You know, if I hadn't have in 2016 hated my job and not being happy with my life, then that really kind of like dark period would not have jolted me into action to actually follow what matters most to me. And you'll notice, I'm sure you notice, you know, in the people that you interview, most people have that sort of, that juncture point, that real kind of like low when something wasn't working out, and then they transform it into something that's good and in more alignment. So flow will not protect you from bad things happening, but the bad things that happen have more meaning and make more sense because they form part of your journey.
I believe in that hugely.
Me too.
I'm going to ask you quite a big question now, because I know a lot of the women I work with are going through fertility struggles. So they might be listening to this and going, well, my big goal, stop talking about vegetables, Jodie, my big goal is to have a baby. And that is my goal. And I know that the journey to getting a baby is not always simple, and some very real times it's not always going to happen in the way you think it's going to happen. And a lot of people will be listening to this going, well, how on earth am I meant to get into flow when all I want is that baby and it's not happening? Can you shed any light on this? And if not, just say, Jodie, just let's change the topic of conversation.
No, it's a really, really great and kind of like beautiful question, because the baby is something that's outside of our control to a certain extent. There are things that we can do to increase the chances, but there's no guarantee of an outcome, you know, and that's the same with a lot of different things in life. But, you know, when that thing really, really matters to you and every part of your body is saying, I want that thing, I need that thing, but for whatever reason, it isn't happening, that can really pull you out of flow and pull you out of alignment. One of the keys of flow is kind of reframing our sense of time. So often we want to fast forward to the future point. We want to be guaranteed the outcome. So in flow, you can start to live in these 24-hour blocks. And when you take small actions each day that bring you into alignment with that, regardless of whether you get the outcome or not, you can always leave with that deep sense of meaning and purpose that you did the best that you could have done to make that happen. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen, you know, and I'm not going to, you know, sugarcoat that and say that it happened for a reason, because I don't know if it did or if it didn't. And sometimes that's a really not helpful thing, you know, to say to someone. But when you feel in that alignment, and when you know at each stage of the journey that you're showing up in a small way, you know, whether that is having a phone call with you, you know, whether that is listening to what worked for other people, whether that's relaxing your body through yoga, whether that's, you know, looking at alternative ways to kind of make it happy, when you pull yourself into alignment with that goal, then you're more at peace with the present moment as opposed to being in conflict with it. Reality is what it is. And often we shoot ourselves with a second arrow of telling ourselves that it should be different. And it's that arrow that causes the pain. You know, we're already carrying the burden of, you know, of what I don't have and what I want to, you know, make reality in my life. But then by telling yourself, I feel bad about feeling bad, then the journey becomes a lot heavier. So flow really just lightens the load and enables you to move like with the current of life, as opposed to like swimming upstream against it.
That's beautiful. And I'm also, you know, as you're saying this, what if the actual journey is painful? I'm thinking about physical pain. What about if you experience, I'm getting quite personal with the sort of the personal topics that I see on a daily basis. But what happens if, let's say, you're in physical pain and you sort of you're showing up as best you can, but almost like, do you ever experience this feeling of pain that just takes you out of the present? You almost can't be present because of the pain so bad. How do you get into flow with something like that? Yeah.
So flow is always kind of found in this sweet spot. It's called like the flow channel, and it's the optimal level of challenge. So basically, kind of like, let's throw out all this science kind of language. It's like the Goldilocks zone, like the sweet spot where it's, you know, not too difficult and not too easy, because when we make it too difficult, we get pulled up into anxiety. And when it's kind of too easy, we go into procrastination and boredom. So in that example, it's decreasing your level of challenge. You know, it may be on those days that you just can't do as much and you can't perform to the level of ability that you normally do because you're in physical pain. And the burning desire to kind of be at your optimal level is pushing you into anxiety because it's physically not possible. So then you drop the level of challenge and you think, okay, what is the smallest thing that I can do that is still in alignment, you know, with the goal that I have to achieve? How do I drop it down? Whether it's asking for help, whether it's explaining to that person, look, I'm showing up today, but I'm in a lot of pain and I'm going to give you, you know, 100% of what I have. But, you know, I may not kind of, you know, bring the kind of normal energy, you know, level that I have, or whether it's just delaying it for the next day and kind of giving yourself permission to be like, you know what, that's too much for me to do today. I think often it's our expectations that, you know, break us out of flow, that we should be kind of up there and we should be able to manage the pain. But it's all about looking at is, if that is too much for me, then when we decrease that level of challenge, then we kind of like re-enter that flow again.
That's doable.
Yeah. We're our own worst enemies. Do you know, a lot of the times, like,
For
you know,
sure.
it's us and it's our expectations, or, you know, we can be so forgiving of other people, but not offer ourselves kind of, you know, the same level of forgiveness to ourselves to kind of say, it's okay. Like today you can just have an off day and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
It is. It's that I often talk about this, the permission to just rest as well.
Yeah.
And just step back rather than beating yourself up about it.
And that comes back to that happiness paradigm of like, I should do this. You know, we're taught that happiness is something that we have to earn, that it's a reward for our hard work, you know, like that's why we make the sacrifices. That's why we justify the late nights or, you know, pushing through the kind of pain threshold, because it's like, once I get there, then I'll be happy. But when you really start to change the rules and you weave happiness into your experience, you know, even if it's just in the small ways, then that pressure goes, because you're like, my job is to enjoy the journey. That's going to give you the resilience and the perseverance to kind of keep on going towards that big goal, rather than burning out or getting, you know, sick of it after a few months because you've used up all your willpower.
It's so interesting. I'm just wondering as well, though, how so you sold everything, you went to Bali, you started meditating, you started writing about your experiences. And what was it? Was it the fact that you were then offered a book deal and you then started writing that you found that you loved that? Or was there something else that propelled you into this state of happiness? What was that moment where you thought, I'm actually happy now?
Yeah, I think it's like a combination of factors. So the first book deal came as a result, literally, and like, I remember it so well, this Instagram post, because I was actually like back home visiting Belfast, and I was in the garden outside with my kind of like my husband's family. I was like, oh, I should really show up and do an Instagram post. And I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to write, you know, just one of those days. And my journal was on the bed. And the journal system for flow was something I developed because I had done all this research. And the problem with flow, if you read any of like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's work, is it's not very practical. Like, it's like, it sounds great, but how do I put it into practice? So I had taken the formula of flow and applied it to a journal system, which I had been using. And I noticed that I was feeling so much happier and I was really enjoying the journey. And a lot of my stress had kind of, you know, decreased. I wasn't so focused on like, I'm not there yet in the destination. I felt like I was becoming more myself. And I literally took like 2 photos of the journal system, threw it up on Instagram, thought nothing of it. And it was that got the book deal. It was that they wanted me to write about. Wow. So it was like very kind of synchronicity increases when you're in flow, because as you align with circumstances, circumstances align with you. So it's like smart luck, you know, if I write, you know, and if I show up, I increase my chances of that person finding me, you know, versus if I kind of wait until I'm the perfect writer, you know, if I wait until I have that thing, then, you know, you're not really aligning so that circumstances can meet you in the middle. So yeah, it came from that. So it's been a combination, and I think the two books really complement each other. So that was Find Flow, which is available, Find Your Flow, which is available now, was a journal system for flow. And then the second book is Choose Happy, and it's more of a reassuring, comforting, encouraging, friendly read about how tiny changes, can bring happier results. And it's more about the common roadblocks to happiness. So yes, you find your flow, but God, on days when people make you really angry, or when you find yourself in comparison, or, when you lose the magic of the world, like what do you do then? So Choose Happy kind of addresses that. So both are really almost kind of like symbols of where I have been on my journey and the lessons that I've been learning.
You've almost just answered all my questions all in one go there. It's like how you got happiness. And so I'm just recapping. So it was that journey, it's the synchronicities that happiness. And then you literally took this idea of flow. You created this first book, which is actually the step-by-step process of how you get into flow.
Yeah.
And now you've almost got it's in flow every day.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then you've now taken that one step further to almost address the common questions that everyone has as to how can we show up when actually life isn't smooth running all the time?
No, like life is really messy and complex, and there are so many different roadblocks to your happiness. And often we think it's got to be this big change. We kind of pin our hopes and dreams on like, oh, well, once this kind of life transformation thing happens, like, then everything will be okay. But actually, the same things still occur. People will upset you, you'll have fear, you'll have self-doubt. And it's really kind of learning how to just navigate everyday life and recognizing that happiness is a choice and not a pursuit. It may not be kind of like the bright light of happiness that is so obvious. Sometimes happiness is like that flicker of hope in your really darkest hour when you want to give up and something just calls you to keep going. That's still happiness. And happiness also exists in the negative emotions. Negative emotions aren't bad. Fear isn't bad. Every behavior has a positive intention, and negative emotions can really illuminate kind of, new ways of thinking or unconscious behavioral patterns that are there, or beliefs that kind of, need to be thrown out so you can move on to the next chapter. So it's almost like a little guide just to how to handle your emotions and how not to be frightened of yourself.
That sounds brilliant. It sounds like everyone could do with a copy of that.
Yeah.
But you talk about this idea that you don't want this pursuit of happiness, but then you also talk about goals.
Yeah.
So how can you have one without the other? Or is it just that you can still have those goals, but you have to kind of be happy in the meantime? Like you show
a little bit. So humans are we're goal orientated. We generally need goals. Excuse me, I'm talking too much now. I've been talking all day. I'm like starting to lose my voice. But we need goals to structure our consciousness. Otherwise, it's kind of like a messy chaos. So goals give us a focus and direction, but the end result is not what brings us happiness. So in psychology, we know from studies that even lottery winners return to their baseline happiness levels. So we know that external changes cause a temporary spike, but that we fall kind of like back down again. So goals are important, but not necessarily in their achievement. It's the person that you become on the journey towards those goals, the adventure that it opens you up to, the things that you experience, the fact that you see yourself stretch beyond what you thought was possible, they are the moments that you tell back. Like they are the stories. Like that's my story. The story isn't I wrote a book, that's the goal, but the story actually is, and then that happened, and then I did this, and I didn't know it was possible, and then I moved all my stuff. So the journey is the main bulk. That's a nice kind of like bit at the end, but it's the journey, who you become on the journey, how you start to see what you thought was impossible become possible for you, and how life takes you in a different direction. Like, that's why goals are important. If you don't have somewhere to focus and channel your attention, you will just passively drift through life. So you need a goal, just for the joy of seeing, like, is it possible? That's when life becomes interesting, when you start to go, like, I wonder if I did that. Like, I wonder what would happen if I went in that direction. All of a sudden, your experience of the world changes versus, you know, I'll just wake up and I'll just kind of like go through my day and I'll be moved by other people's currents, you know, swept up in theirs. Flow is all about your uniqueness, who you are, staying in the current of your own life and just enjoying the adventure of where your goals may or may not take you. And sometimes they take us in unexpected directions, you know, but somehow we were meant to be there.
I'm so pleased you said that, because that clarifies so much. Sometimes I just feel a bit lost along the way. Like, I had this conversation with a friend recently where I was thinking, actually it was across two friends. One of them was talking about spirituality and was talking about money doesn't buy you happiness, and you know, it's not about the material things. And I thought, okay, she's right. And then I thought, well, what am I working hard for? Like, why would I want to build a big business? Like, what is the point? And almost in losing that goal, I almost lost myself. Not the goal of money, but a goal that I thought, it was a very complex conversation, but it was almost like, well, if I drop this idea that I want to work, and maybe I don't need to work as hard as I am, I don't need to become this person that's helping a lot of people, I'll just let that go. I'll just enjoy waking up in the morning and just have an average life.
Yeah.
And losing that drive, that goal, I didn't have any motivation. I thought, well, what am I doing this all for? And I lost it.
Yeah.
You have so nicely summed that up, in the sense that it's not, you can still have that goal, but it's the process.
Yeah, it is the process. And I think as human beings, we have this comforting way of thinking in opposites. It's either I'm successful or I'm not, or, you know, I'm spiritual, but I don't earn money. I enjoy the journey, or I'm goal orientated. And this is why I love flow, because you're both. You're both. And actually, you know, what makes you you, and like being authentically you, for some people that will look like, you know, I want to run meditation classes locally in my area for 10 people, and that makes me happy. And we need that person. But we also need the person that's like, no, I want to change millions of lives. I want to be a disruptor. I want to really shake things up in society. We need that person. And so it's just about connecting to like what feels right for you. So in that moment, your essence, like Jodie's kind of like, there's a really lovely psychologist called James Hillman, who has this theory called acorn theory. And he says our acorn is like our little, you know, is our inner essence that wants to go into an oak tree. So your essence in that moment, your little acorn is saying, no, the impact I want you to have is bigger. And that's what feels authentically aligned for me. And you don't need to justify that. It just is. That is kind of like where you're called to. And for other people, it will be, I feel called to deal with smaller groups. And we need a mixture. It's all about embracing your uniqueness. There's been 107 billion people on the planet, you know, that existed before us. That's a lot. And not one single one of them was you, nor will another person ever be you. So your job is to be yourself. And I like to think of flow as like a bit of a scientific guide to becoming more of who you are. So you can realize like who you are and tapping into that alignment, you know, that feels right for me, that doesn't. That's your flow. And you've just got to follow that, you know, without justification, without anything else, and actually starting to really think in terms of the something else, not the either, not the or, but the something else. Like, what if you could be happy and successful at the same time? What if you could grow a massive audience and not work really hard? I mean, people that explore the something else change lives and change the way that we work. And that's what we need. We need to stop thinking that it's one or the other. It's happiness or success. No, it's not. It's both. You know, it's getting the goal or not getting the goal. No, it's the journey towards the goal. It's the middle ground, you know, the little shade in the middle that we're not comfortable kind of thinking within because we like the absolutes. But the more you can get comfortable in that middle ground, the more life just becomes more enjoyable and you're not fenced into that box.
Wow. I feel like I need a whole therapy session with you.
Yeah.
Because even as you're talking, I'm going, okay, well, when I'm on this journey and my acorn is this, and you were describing it, I'm like, I'm one of those disruptors. I love disrupting stuff.
Yeah.
But then how do you stop yourself from getting too stressed because you're like, there's so much to do?
It
Can
just
you go on? Sorry, you
yeah,
answer.
it just goes back to that level of challenge. So, and recognizing the different parts of yourself that are at play. So I'm going to take a guess, and I may be totally wrong, but typically disruptors and people who really want to push themselves to the limits of what, you know, is possible, typically, like, their motivator, you know, is kind of like, is that sense of achievement, and they only really feel that they're doing a good job if they can, you know, see the metrics of that, so they'll go. However, in flow, it's really about taking like a step back from that and taking the aligned action that's really going to make the big difference and make the big shift, and like focusing your energy on that. Like, that's kind of where it brings you. So when you feel that anxious stress, like I call it like being on the racehorse, you know, when you're just like, go, I can't stop, I've just got to get to the finish line, let's just keep going. Like, that's the point that you need to pull over and kind of be like, hang on a second here, like, this is anxiety, like this kind of part of me that's motivated to achieve is a great part, and I want it there, but I also need to counter that with rest and relaxation. And in those moments, it's about slowing down and just kind of like taking a breath and looking at the things that you're working on. But yeah, I mean, it's all about managing the different parts and getting that harmonious functioning. So working with the achievement part of you, you know, working with the part of you that, you know, maybe struggles to rest and slow down, working with the impatient part of you that wants to like be there now, and bringing them kind of like all managing them in their little roles so that they can each play their part without sabotaging you.
How do you rest? How do you rest?
How do I rest?
Yeah.
So I use the journal system for flow, like, that's in the book, like each day to structure my day. And a key kind of part of developing the system was exactly that. You know, I love a to-do list. Like, I am a tick it off junkie. There is nothing that gives me more satisfaction than like being like, tick, I got it. So when I was developing the journal system, I divided priorities into 2 separate sections. So each day I set 3 high value priorities, things that I must do, like things that are really going to make an impact and move the needle and kind of push things forward. But they're balanced out with 3 high flow priorities, things that I kind of like, you know, elicit flow for me or bring me flow so that I can structure my business more around flow, but also so that I can prioritize like my rest time. So I weave happiness purposely into every day. Every day I do something that makes me happy every single day.
Like, what can you share? Something like, what have you
Like
done
different
today?
things. What have I done? Oh, well, this morning I did a workout. First thing, I meditated. Sometimes it'll be like, I mean, it's lockdown now, so it's a little bit harder, you know, but sometimes it'll be like just having a glass of wine with friends, going for a walk, taking a bath, reading a book, listening to a podcast, you know. And I find when I'm on the racehorse and I'm in like achievement junkie kind of like mode, they are the things that are bottom of my list. Like, I do not prioritize myself. Like, they all slip and I just become this kind of like slave to starter finisher, like getting the task done. So this is a really nice structured way for me to be like, I rested today and that felt really good. And that has also helped me, like, over kind of the past couple of years of using the journal system, to realize that like my worth is not quantified in the number of hours that I work or the output that I have produced. Like, I'm not a machine. Like, I don't have to produce that. I don't have to work X amount of time to earn my place in the world. Like, I am here, I'm alive. Whether I do that thing or don't do that thing, it does not add or subtract from my worth. Never. So it's about, as long as I'm living in a 24-hour block, that's how I treat time. What am I doing in these 24 hours? How am I aligning with the business goals that I have? How am I aligning with the goal that I have to like enjoy life and always feel fulfilled and not kind of look back and go, I worked really hard for those 2 years and, didn't really enjoy it. And sure, I had that to show for it, but I was miserable the whole time. I never want that to happen to me ever, ever, ever again. I never want that feeling back in my life of feeling lost and discontent and going to bed at night kind of going like, what is this life? Is this everything that I've worked hard for? And so purposely weaving it in every day and knowing that if stuff isn't done, then it's not done, and that's okay. The world will not fall apart.
Amazing. So really, everyone needs to just get the copies of your both books and they'll live happily ever after.
Live happily ever after.
Do you feel like you're living your happily ever after?
I do. There's so much more that I want to experience, but like, I love life. Like, I know that sounds like really kind of cliche, but I wake up in the morning and I just love it. I just love, like, I mean, I still live out of a backpack. I'm in an Airbnb in Belfast at the minute.
You do? You still live in wow.
Yeah, this isn't my stuff. This is like somebody else's house. So they're just kind of in. Yeah, I still live out of my backpack, like still travel. So I've been traveling kind of like since that point. We're just waiting on our visas to come through for Taiwan, and we're making a move out there. And yeah, I love it. Like, and it's me. And I'm not saying like, that is the way, sell all your stuff. That's not it. That is uniquely me. That's what makes me happy. Like, your job is to find out what makes you happy and like follow and do more of that. I think often we go through our days and we just experience the day and we don't look at it, but actually your days are filled with like rich kind of like data and feedback about what's making you happy and what's not making you happy, when you're in flow, when you're not in flow. And the more you can pay attention to that and structure your days around it, then the more you kind of like intentionally design your life around happiness, rather than making it on a mission to like prove yourself and show other people like, I'm good enough now, I'm worthy of love and belonging. Is that enough? Like, will everybody accept me now? Will that make me immune from criticism? Will that make me feel safe and worthy? It's like, you already are all those things. Like, you don't need to prove yourself. Your job is just to experience life, enjoy, take the happy moments that exist, ride out the bad times and the storms when they come, and to be yourself, like just to be who you are and to know what that is.
And on starting this journey, if people are listening and go, okay, I'm lost, I'm disconnected, everything that you were feeling before, and they want to find out about themselves, where's the best place to start? Is it through your first book? Should we just go to your second book?
I would say the first book. If you kind of resonate with like the feeling of being lost and disconnected, that you feel like, a little bit frustrated with life, like maybe life looks good on paper, but on the inside, you don't feel that great about it, and you are struggling to know what you like. You are like me, kind of sitting there going, I don't even know what my hobbies are. I don't have any. I've got no clue. Start with the first book and start to journal and build up to it. If you haven't journaled before, which I had never done before, just kind of like maybe start with the gratitude and kind of work your way up through the system. But doing that really helps, because what you're doing is you're really paying attention to your day. What you're doing in the day, what makes you happy, what's not making you happy. And maybe at the start you'll have more of like what isn't making you happy, but that's learning in itself. For me, when I first started, I was like, what was not making me happy was I said yes to everything. I was like a complete people pleaser. I was like running about after everybody else. And no wonder I didn't know what I liked, because I was so busy going, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. Yeah, of course. Oh no, you want to go there? Oh, I don't mind. I'll do whatever you think. And I didn't have my own voice, because it was like I had to be a good girl. So starting even from those, and even though it's really uncomfortable, sit with it. Like, just sit in the discomfort. Don't fight against it. Don't judge yourself for it. Just be like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like, but you know what? I get to enjoy the process of finding out. And that's where the adventure starts.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And if you feel like if I had to pin you down and say, what is the one thing that you can do for your happiness? What would that be?
Allow yourself to experience it. Open yourself up to receive it. And I know that sounds like counterintuitive, but I think when a lot of people actually analyze their lives, we don't let happiness in, not fully, because it's like, oh, happiness is here, but don't get too used to it, don't let it be too good. So like when happiness is there, like whether it is in the small moment that you're laughing with your friend, or whether you're just enjoying the walk, like just take a minute to absorb it, like let it into your being, like physically feel it, forget all the other stuff that's going on, all the things that you can't control. When happiness presents itself in the big and the small moments, don't miss it, don't wish it away, just kind of like let it in and be like, and really allow yourself to feel it.
Amazing. It's strange, isn't it? How sometimes, I know I'm guilty of it, when things are so good, it's almost scary.
Yeah. Weird, isn't it? Yeah, I know.
Do you know Marianne Williamson? I know she talks about how our biggest fear is actually the fear of success.
Yeah, what you could become, like what is possible. I do really believe that. I think a lot of the time is, and it's the same with happiness. We block it out mainly because a lot of the time we use it as a motivator. So it's kind of like we hold back happiness from ourselves because it's the reward that kind of keeps us going. So when you start to weave it into your experience, it can be strange, and it can almost feel a bit, I don't know, like a bit strange when you're like, I'm in the park and I'm really happy, let it into my being. It feels almost unnatural. You're like, I don't like this. It feels really odd, but it's part of it. I think often, we get the big thing and then it's like, what if I lose it? What if it goes away? What's going to happen next? And we're just constantly, always in a pursuit and not in the moment. So just open yourself up, notice the small moments of joy. It's often the ordinary things, that are the most extraordinary. And I think the pandemic is really showing us that, like we miss the small things. Like I want to have a coffee with my friend. Like, I want to walk into a shop, I really want my hair cut, but like it is like, it's small things in life, the meaning, the connection, the things that we have with other people. That's really what makes us happy. But we chase all this other stuff.
Yeah. That they are powerful words. You're spot on. It's so true. And if people are listening to this, they want to find more, they want to get to know you more, and they want to get your book and your new book in particular, where can people find you, and when is your book coming out?
So Find Your Flow, if you're interested in that, you can just head to findyourflowthebook.com, and there's an overview of the system and a list of retailers. The best place to connect with me is on Instagram, and that's over at the Power, POWER, to reinvent. And the new book is called Choose Happy, and it's out, I think it's April or May this year. I think they're kind of, I think they've just changed the launch date, but I think it's April, 20th of April. And you can find it on Amazon, Waterstones, all kind of like major booksellers. So yeah, if you just pop it into Google, it'll come up. Choose Happy by Sarah Gregg.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait to read your new book.
Yes. I'm excited. I'm going to send you a copy in advance. So yeah, you'll get like first little glance at it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
No worries.